It's to me, James. Hi there, racing fans, and welcome to another edition of Winning Ways, where we've got some very interesting stuff up for you. We're going to be showing Mark Prescott part 2 of the walk around his stables and his feelings on various things. I was very fascinated with the way he saw bullfighting. He summed up his love of bullfighting pretty well.
He likes bullfighting.
Oh, loves bullfighting.
He's a barbarian.
And
take it from me. He's
and
a barbarian.
Okay, well, when you listen to why he likes bullfighting and why it's better than a bull standing in some farm in Herefordshire, you'll see that he's actually makes a very good point.
Very good point.
Anyway,
I'll stick a knife into him, see if he likes it. Sir Mark Barbarian Prescott. I think you wind him here up, Jim. I think you wind him here up, Jim.
Anyway, we had a bit of sport this weekend.
Yeah.
Super.
You want to watch bullfighting, Sir Mark? Go watch the Bulls play.
They put the Stormers to sword.
They were fantastic. And how's that Sevens player?
Yeah. How good is he?
How good is he? He's got a sidestep. The cameraman nearly missed him. How good is that guy? Gee. There's a few.
But now you can see why the seven side's battling.
Yeah.
Ron Knowles here, that guy's
Sanatla.
there. They've got Sanatla. They've got a whole team of them that were the old guard now playing in Super Rugby.
This guy, I forget his name. So I'll tell you.
The camera nearly missed him.
The camera nearly missed his sidestep. The two guys, the prop.
Thought he just stood there like a statue.
He thought, where's that guy go? And he was dotting it down. No, he was fantastic. The Bulls looked excellent. I thought Stormers, they got a good hiding, but they got some very good players. I thought the Sharks played well. The Lions ground out to win.
Yeah, well, they've never won there. They always get beaten there, so you know.
But it's great to start. You've got, obviously, the New Zealand sides always raised the bar.
Did you watch the New Zealand side?
I watched a few of them, they're tight finishes. Yeah. I was impressed, firstly, by the size and the ability of the Auckland Blues. Yeah. Wow, they've got some big lads.
They've got a new coach, Robertson, and I think that they will be a much better side. Yeah. Nonu looked like he's got some fire in his belly. He wants to play.
Sonny Bull with his beard.
Yeah, and Sonny Bull will definitely, make an impact because he hasn't played much. That's the problem.
That's right.
But he'll make an impact. I think the Blues will cause a few people some headaches. They've got a good pack.
Did you watch the Aussie sides? I saw the Rebels. They got the boxer back at fly half.
Yeah.
Quade Cooper, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He played well. So
I just thought the Australian side's very insipid.
Yeah, well, Waratahs came within a point of beating the Hurricanes, so you're right, but it's great that it's back.
Fantastic fun. Great fun.
Will you be watching the FA Cup tonight when Chelsea play Man United?
I think it would be a good game. I'll be supporting.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something to look forward to. Anything else catch your eye over the weekend, sport?
No, there was some pretty good golf, and what is interesting is that I watched a little insert on this EFC wrestling.
I watched
Did you
Carte
see
Blanche.
The South African?
I watched the Carte Blanche's
South African
boy.
How good is he?
Yeah, he's got a rugby ear from being kicked on it.
Well, they've all got. If you look at all those MMA wrestlers, the fighters, they've all got those ears from being kicked on the side of the head, and they get blood in their ear.
I wonder if Sir Mark Prescott likes those barbaric sports
I'm sure
as well.
He does.
He would want no gloves.
He likes coursing as well, and he likes cockfighting. Cockfighting was a big thing with him. He got he's already had a few infractions with the police about.
Your mate.
But he's a fascinating man. I mean, I was so lucky to spend my formative years with him. Yeah. So that's it for the sport.
Yes.
Do you agree with me? The Bulls are the best side as far as South Africa is
first
concerned?
week they looked the best, yeah.
Pollard and Pampia, the scrum half, will make a very big
winger. I wish I could think of that winger's name. When they had to bandage his head, they had to go past 7 dreadlocks on the one side and 32 dreadlocks on the other side.
Had some fun. Okay, we're going to move on and we're going to have a look at 3 to follow. Remember, there wasn't much racing in Joburg or Cape. Here we rained out, so they had one meeting in Cape Town and one meeting in Johannesburg. Basically, we had to find them. And we found some good ones. Let's have a look. Well, we go to Kenilworth and we have a look at the first race. Now, you'd think that this is the wrong one to pick in this race, but I think this horse has got more improvement than any of the others. And there was Paul Reeves's runner, Fighter, by What a Winter, out of Wolfhound Mare, bred by Narrow Creek's Stud Lofty. And
Lofty, the lesser spotted Johan Loftus.
Yeah, I think he's Narrow Creek, isn't he? Or
I think he is.
Yeah,
I think he is.
could be. Yeah, could be. Yeah, I think there's a couple of Leverton and a couple of them involved in the team. Levies. Anyway, this is a What a Winter, and I thought a very nice horse in the canter pass. In the race, you could see he's got a good action.
Yeah, good
He
action.
didn't have much help from the saddle, but he had a 4-kilogram claim. He'll improve.
I think when we see the race, Jim, you'll see how green this horse is.
Yeah, very, very green. Anyway, they were all first-timers. The hot favourite ran down the field. Something went wrong with it. Jay Ramsden, as usual, showed that he's a master with the 2-year-olds. Let's go and have a look at the first race at Kenilworth on Saturday.
Yeah, here we go. The horse we found is Fighter. You'll see it in the pink colours. It jumps well, but very green. It runs away from the others initially. The rider, Louis Burke, I think, just straightens it up. The favourite's a horse called Joie de Vie. And that shows a bit of pace with Comediva. They're showing pace. But the winner comes from off them. That's Minnesota Dream. That's Kamala's in the black colours. That wins a good race. But have a look at this horse. It gets hold of the race sort of at the middle stages. And I think it's just a little keen with the kid. But a good action horse, James.
Yeah, you can see when they change the camera, he's got lovely action, this horse, and he's really extravagant. He wants to gallop, but he's not really getting enough a balanced ride from the top. And this guy, I don't know, pulls a stick all over the place, and doesn't really seem to be at all balanced up at
Tries
all.
to stay on.
But I think this was a good run, because I think that this horse, when he did really get balanced the last 50, he did keep on going, and I think that you'll find this horse will improve quite a lot. I like the look of him, and I think that he's a horse really you should have a very close look at next time he runs.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, we then move on to the second race at Kenilworth, and Glenn Cotson won the race. Very interesting. He does a very interesting podcast, Glenn, and he sends it to me. It was quite accurate. He liked this horse that won this race, and he said 6 Degrees will run thereabouts, probably just still needs one and a bit further. I thought it was a cracking good run. On the inside of the track, let's go and pick him up at the start.
Yeah, this is a good run when one considers the actions down the outside later. Here it is down the inside. It gets away. It's got a different cap to the stablemate, and the pace is on initially, or most of the race on the outside. And the green and white is a horse called Salt, who went off as favourite for Dean Kahneman and Keegan DeMello. Up the middle, you've got horses showing speed as well. You've got Spy, KCJ, and Pegadora all showing speed. But our horse that we've liked is on the inside of the course. But as you'll see as the race unfolds, the action's on the outside.
Yeah, he's right towards the inside. You can't see him at the moment. He's hidden on the inside. And he's in the Hugo Hutting's colours. And he's Daytona bred. He's by Silvano out of Key Danzig mare, 6 Blue Notes. I think that Glenn Cotson trained her as well. And you'll see him right on the right-hand side of your picture. He's very green, this horse. He doesn't really know what's going on. Anthony Andrews gives him a smack or two to get him in the race, and I thought he ran on extremely well at the death.
Yeah, Inertia runs on well. The stablemate gets up to win with Bernard Fader. I thought Salt was home and dry here, but Inertia shows good resolution, and Pegadora staying on for third.
Good ride from Bernard Fader. He seemed to be more straight in the saddle and really got the horse up really well. I just think that you have a close look at this horse, 6 Degrees. It was his first run. He'd had a barrier trial in Durban where he showed nothing. And he's obviously got some ability. So put him into your black book and let's see where he goes from there. We're going to move on and have a look at our new segment. Where are they now?
No, we've still got one more 3 to come, Jim. What about the soft falling rain? Of course,
we got one more to go. Yeah, I thought that we were tired. We'd run out of steam.
You've run out of ideas.
Okay, well, I nearly ran out of ideas, but then we found this one at Turfentine, a first timer. Let's go and have a look at the 2-year-olds fillies at Turfentine.
Yeah, this is the talk was that this was the soft falling rain that was going to run like hell, and they got that right. It comes out the gate in Mary's Wilgeborst colours. You'll see it on the outside. The couple of horses showing speed. The danger, I thought, was going to be a horse called See My Vision, but that gets left a little at the start and gets chased up, so I wouldn't worry too much about that run. But Gin Fizz is always in control of this race, Jim.
Yeah, Makara, the other soft falling rain of Terry's, also bred by Wilgerbos and Maritzfontein. That's in the orange colours. That's obviously quite a nice filly as well. And you think you'd have a good look at her out of a Var mare. She's going to improve. But this is out of Esprimonte by Dan Silly. It's got a pedigree.
Trained by Michael as well. But it's trained. Mike got this one out and great start for this. Gavlarina just punching it out. It's a very impressive winner in 58 and change. Bear in mind the tracks had rained.
Yeah.
And this comes home well clear of the field. This is a name you must remember, Gin Fizz.
Yeah,
Jim, I bought 3 soft falling rains on one of them. The one came in and I thought, whoa, was as hot as Bruce Fordyce's heel. And I thought, let me calm it down, let me get it right. And it's come right beautifully. The other two are showing a lot. So just in my opinion, I think it's going to be a very good stallion.
Look, he produced beautiful looking yearlings,
yes.
Beautiful foals.
It was a great horse.
And it's very, very sad that he's not with us because
Absolutely.
I think that this is a great start for him. Anyway, this is a filly and they'll obviously have the pedigree and whatever. And I think that she's obviously got to be a filly that you consider very strongly for the nursery coming up, or there's other 2-year-old features in Johannesburg. But she looks good. And Terry's filly, soft falling rain as well. Have a close look at that next time. So I can now get past the PE and go and have a look at what I've been dying to look at for all week, which is where are they now?
Hi, I'm Mike Schulman. I spent the greater part of my life riding and training racehorses, something I really love doing. I was fortunate enough to train some really nice horses, including Grey Angel, Comanche Chief, and Quick Wit. Nowadays, I live in Johannesburg, where I run my own real estate company and home improvement business.
If you've been involved in horse racing in South Africa but have either moved away, immigrated or retired, we want to hear from you. Send us a short 30-second video recording on WhatsApp and we'll flight it on the show. Clips can be sent to either James on 071 588 5769 or Paul on 083 779 1311. We look forward to hearing from you.
Mike Schulman is a most interesting chap, and I've known him for most of his life.
Wonderful
he was a very good rider, you know.
Is that right?
He didn't say how good a rider he was. An amateur rider. He won more national hunt races. I think he never run nearly as many as those amateur riders racing in Cape Town as Chris Snaith, who's a legend.
Snaith and Bass and all that.
But Mike could. He rode like he was a very good rider indeed.
A very good guy. I see him at the national sales. Jimmy comes out, he walks around a bit with Linton, they have a chat about horses. He knew his way around.
Oh, he's a lovely man. And he trained for Podless at Reinkiesfontein when we were there when it started. And a very good trainer indeed. Grey Angel, I think, was the best horse that he
Do you remember Quick Wit? Won the November, I think.
Yeah.
You know in colours it ran.
Robert Bloomberg.
Correct. Bloomberg's famous silks. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he a lovely guy. Lovely guy. Great to hear that he's doing well.
Yeah, and he's doing very well. He's a tycoon in Joburg, Mike.
Yes, he's a tycoon.
It's interesting.
We'll see him at the Nationals.
What he said to me is that he might give me a private trainer's job. He's going to buy 3 or 4 million rands worth of horses and set me up.
That's a
which
fair
would be
start.
very nice. Yeah.
James, I see they put the photos of you and I up that they can contact us. Looks like from our 21st. Those
It
photos.
was.
Well, mine was definitely my 21st.
No, it was my 22nd, actually.
Okay,
Okay,
lovely.
can we go and have a look at Plum of the Week?
Over towards the inside is Senor's Guest, but it's Flashburn with 300 metres left to go. Clear by 2 to 3 lengths. Senor's Guest is second. Then comes Sir Geoffrey, Colonel Caramel, and Dry Your Eyes, but it's Flashburn with 150 left to go. Flashburn in front. Lasser up the inside, but Sean Tarry raises 2,000, a big milestone for a world-class trainer. Flashburn won it, second to Lasser. Then further back in the field was Sir Geoffrey and Colonel Caramel.
Well, this horse started at odd price of 37 to 10, which is just over 7 to 2, I think. They've got all these something to 10. So it's a way of manoeuvring an extra point out of the betting market. And Sean Terry, 2000th winner. That's why we had to put this horse up.
Yeah, magnificent feat. He's a great trainer. He wins the big races. He wins little races. He's a very approachable, nice guy. Couldn't happen to a better guy. I'm very chuffed for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And this horse was by byword out of a Silvana mare. He was 5 to 1 or better on Interbet. He started, as I say, 37 to 10. You had to be on Interbet. Owned by the nominee, Mr. Abe Putsch, of a bunch I haven't heard of. Haras de Saint-Peur. It must be a French...
Argentinian? Haras?
Or Argentinian, one of the two.
Haras, yeah.
SCEA. Haras de Saint-Peur. Anyway, we'll make some inquiries and find out a bit more about them. But nice to see Lyle Hewitson boot home Sean's 2000th winner, and well done to Sean. And to all of those of you who have an Interbet account, you would have got at least a point or two better than what the market dictated. So get your account and get signed on. We'll be back with current affairs.
Best race time odds, transparency of betting markets, friendly and super efficient staff, the ability to negotiate odds, a full service tote with no limits, which is very important for exotic players, loyalty program, speedy withdrawal of funds, full odds multiple betting, and excellent in-play markets. These are just some of the many reasons that come to mind as to why I believe, as a serious punter, there is no online operator in South Africa that can realistically come close to matching what Interbet has to offer. Put simply, there's no other site like it. And the ability to negotiate odds adds to my fun and enjoyment. Interbet, where the professionals bet.
Oh, there we go. Winning ways. I'm just talking about current affairs. I looked at the Magic Millions thing, and Jim, you know that today's the Perth sale.
Starts the Perth sale today
and tomorrow. 310 lots.
Yeah.
They've got some very good incentives down there. Jim, we've got the Winx Apollo Stakes to show them. I just read the report this morning, and it came out the race in great style. And the trainer, Chris Waller, was saying that going to be tighter into the next race. And he says, we're prepared for a defeat. We don't worry about it. If she gets beat, she gets beat. We want to go on and just... it was a brilliant way he put it, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I believe the Gremlins have got in, James. We haven't got the Tommy Hotspur. It'll have to push to next week.
It's disappointing because the producers didn't put it on. And, you know, people want to see the group races.
We'll put it on next week.
And, we'll put it on next week. But the Tommy Hotspur was won by Down to Zero. It's a Judd Pot trained by Adam and Michael Azzi. And Terry Andrews bred it, you know. So, listen, we'll bring it back again next week.
We will show
watch
them
the race
and
see what's going on. But this shouldn't happen, is what it should be. This shouldn't happen. But going back to Winx, she's running in the Chipping Norton on the 2nd of March.
Correct.
Group 1, okay? And she bust the course record here.
You know, funny enough, I had a look at it, Jim. Yeah, now that you mentioned it. Funny enough, I looked up the time because there was a very smart pinnacle race at Turventine. I know it wasn't a wet track, you know, on the weekend. And
You're trying to compare Turventine to Royal Randwick.
No, I'm just saying the times. It was 1:26 and change in Turventine. Do you know what she ran it in?
No.
1:21.
Yeah.
And change.
Well, Turventine's got a hill 30 to 31
I agree.
going
And they had
up
rain,
you know,
but I'm just saying, it's a quick time, 1:21.
No, 1:21. Listen, the poly track, the maidens run 1:21, so please.
Oh, yes, that's
okay,
true.
so now we've got that sorted out. But she did break the course record, and that's a testimony to the expat that runs the racetrack, okay,
Yeah,
Royal Randwick,
yeah.
okay, our man there who is the track manager. But if you ever want to see a machine, this is a machine. I mean, she runs past Group 1 horses like they're standing still.
Happy Clapper. Yeah. Very good horse.
And just gallops past them.
Yeah.
So we thought you'd like to see it. Those of you that haven't seen it, we'll show you. Let's go and see the Apollo Stakes at Royal Randwick.
Set now, racing. Well, she was the last out of the gates, but boy, you could throw a handkerchief over them out of the barriers. Who's going to lead here? Tom Melbourne's pushing forward. Patrick Arena. Happy Clapper's very handy. Egg Tart out deep. Winks going between them. Then came Aloysia the rails. Brigham Rocks and Unforgotten is the last one. Tom Melbourne's obliged to go forward and take the lead. He draws a length in front now. If Happy Clapper will get some cover. Egg Tart goes to third, then Patrick Aaron fourth, the rails. Winks has one off the fence, so she can start a trouble from there. On the outside of Aloysia, then Unforgotten, and Brigham Rocks is the last one. 7.50 out. Tom Melbourne, the front runner. The 8-year-old Happy Clapper. He's inching closer, going to the 600 metres. He wants to try and pinch a bit of a march on the chap. Happy Clapper really turns it on to Tom Melbourne. Then Egg Tart, Patrick Aaron, and Winks is 4 lengths away as they come around the turn. Tom Melbourne, the inside of Happy Clapper. Stride for stride. Egg Tart third. Winks is starting to chime into it. Bowman still sits pretty at the furlong. Happy Clapper. Clipperton goes for home, but here she comes now. Winks. She just sidles up on the outside, takes the lead and draws away again. Age shall not weary the champ. Once again, she's haughty and imperious. Winks makes it a third. Apollo Stakes, 2 lengths to Happy Clapper. Photo third, Egg Tart, Patrick Aaron. Then came Unforgotten. Tom Melbourne weakened out from Aloysia, and Brigham Rocks was the last to finish. Back as good as ever. 30 in a row. Happy Clapper, he thought just for a moment he might have had a hope, but Winks just crushed him. Winks, hands and heels, barely pushed out by Bowman, and has run pretty decent time in the process.
Well, what a performance, Jim. You know, she keeps going and she just keeps doing, was that 30 in a row or something? You know, 30 wins, 34 or 34 wins. It's an amazing record, Jim.
I would race her until she gets beaten.
Well, they're philosophical about it.
Eight-year-old.
They're philosophical about it, you know.
Okay, let's look at the economics. Put her in
23 million.
Okay,
Aussie dollars.
23 million. She's going to earn another $3 or $4 million this year.
Yeah.
Okay, at least.
Yes.
Okay, you put her in foal and you produce a foal to Reduce Choice or whatever, one of the top horses. Bit of a skew leg, you're going to get 200,000 or 300,000. If you produce a really nice foal, you might get 2 million.
Yeah,
you might
they'll get $1 million if it's got a leg missing.
Yeah, listen, you know, you might not get that. But the thing is, you go to the races, every time you go to the races, you're going to pick up overseas, you're going to pick up 4 bar.
But, you know, and then then it gets beat twice in a row, and the guys say, how much do you want to win? There's a downside. It's a double-edged sword.
When it wins like that.
Give up when you're on top.
Yeah.
You're not Manny Pacquiao.
No way.
You must be like Cantona. Give up when you're on top. Not like Pacquiao.
No, I want to give up when I get beaten. That's it.
Ooh, you're a boxer
That's
too.
when I gave up.
You learnt a lot from Sir Mark Prescott.
Well, that's the star of Australia.
But James, I sort of just changed. Excuse me interrupting you.
No. That's the star of Australia. So let's talk about the Vodacom Durban July theme, which is Stars
of Africa.
Of Africa.
Very good theme. They put out clues, and it encompasses.
What's clues?
Well, they put out 3 different clues. Every week they sent out an idea. I know you're not up to speed these days, you're in a coma.
Yeah.
But every week they sent out, and they wanted people to guess what it was going to be, and they sent out map of Africa with stars glittering, but you obviously don't know. So it's now
I didn't get to all of that.
No, it's been confirmed. Stars of Africa is the theme.
Yeah, for the Vodacom Durban July.
For the Vodacom Durban July. They're working hard on it. I went in the other day, and the whole gang were at it, getting ready. They're working, planning all their rooms. They're starting to get people to fill up the rooms already, you know. So well done to them. But I wanted to touch on Wingspan 7. There's a 6-year-old who's running in Hong Kong now. And they say, I read the article and you read the article, and I think this is embellishment at its best. The horse is called Beauty Generation. It's by Road to Rock, who's an Encosta de Lager horse. Now this horse has come well. It's won its last 7, and it's doddled up. It's very good. It won a 7 furlong this week. But this is what it says in the article, James. Beauty Generation is now regarded as the best miler in the world and quite possibly the best horse on the planet. Won the Queen's Jubilee Cup over 1400, 7th successive win, a 6-year-old. Now, that's a hell of a comment to make. You know, we got horses, we just watched them, we've got horses in the UK and France and all over the world, in America. So it's a big comment. I'd never heard of the horse until it won. It's, as I say, James, a 6-year-old. Are we retiring horses too early when you look at...
Of course.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
This is a 6-year-old come to its best. Winks is 7. There's a lot of horses all over the world that are champions, and they keep going at 6 and 7, and they do as good at times as when they were 3 and 4. Well, how do you read into that?
Well, you went through a stage where every colt was retired after it won the Derby.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it. They retired because you're going to make more money out of it.
Yes.
They realized with like a mare like Winks, and certainly with mares, you're probably going to make more money racing if it's that good than you are going to make at stud. So you might as well race him as long as possible. And that's why she's racing. And she's loving her racing. Look at her. Yeah. She has her 2 prep barrier trials. She canters along behind them. Finishes within 3 lengths of them, then comes out of the races. He clicks his whip at her, gives her a tap down the shoulder at the 100-meter mark. She sails past. You know, she doesn't even take a deep breath to beat them in course record time. She's now mature. Yeah. You know, most racehorses don't mature till they're 5 years old.
Yeah, I agree with you. Late 4 or 5, the best times have always been. James, but even a horse like Enable, that's staying in training, isn't it?
Yeah, she's staying.
Something to look forward to. She had a very interrupted program this year, and she still came out and won the Arc.
Yeah.
But there's, it's good for the game when the big horses like, you know, Black Caviar. Now, Black Caviar, let's just talk about Black Caviar. That was retired at, I think, 25 runs, and Peter Moody did a great job with it, unbeaten. He took it to Ascot and won. Now they've got a race called the Black Caviar Lightning Stakes. They've added them 2 together. And it was won by a horse, a mare this year called Her Time, who's by Time Thief.
Okay, she's very good.
Yeah, she's outstanding.
A dual Group 1 winner, I think, in
correct.
Australia.
But a good plug for Time Thief.
Yeah, Hassan Adams stands him down in the
Yeah, that's right,
Cape
Time
there.
Thief. So that was very, very good.
Yeah, I want to mention something to you which I haven't chatted to anyone about, but I was fascinated because we talked on the show about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, about a new bet in Santa Anita Park called Racing Roulette.
Yes, what's the latest?
Well, Racing Roulette's been introduced in South Africa, so I thought to myself, let me have a look at this whole thing, and I went through the card at Kenilworth on Saturday.
Is that where you could do a Racing Roulette?
There was Racing Roulette. Red is the favourite, and they're 3 or 4 horses. Black is the sort of middle horses in the betting, and green is like hitting the roulette wheel, hitting green, you get a 1 in 35 chance,
roughies, yeah.
or 2 in 35 chance, okay, the roughies. So I went through the races, I thought, let me have a look at Racing Roulette. Anyway, I found race 7. I thought this looks like a good race to have a bet in, because... the green, I wanted to have a bet on the green. Okay,
can I just stop you, Jim, because I don't know exactly, I don't know as much as you do about it. So you came to race 7, you've still got green, black and red.
Every race has got red, black and green, next door to the horses' names.
And anyone with red is in your bet, if you like red, and anyone in black is in your... Okay, sorry,
so you have one of the 3 bets.
Okay.
But they're predominantly the fancied horses in red, predominantly the middle of the park.
Do you know the odds?
Well, you can see the odds, okay? So because you can look at the betting and see where which horses got them. But I wanted to back a horse in the green, okay? I wanted to see...
That's the 35s and up.
Well, okay, so now let me explain to you why this bet is doomed if they don't do something about it, okay? So I back a horse in green, the green bracket. There are 4 greens, 4 reds, and 4 blacks on the card.
So it's an even break, eh?
Okay, it's an even break, the 4 of them. But the horses in green are paying on the tote 12 to 1, 14 to 1, 28 to 1, and 36 to 1.
Okay.
The 4 horses in that bracket. So I have my bet. What happens? The horse in the green bracket wins. Okay?
Yes.
Number 1 on the card, Bernard Fade Herb rode it, and that's why I picked it, because it was well drawn, and there were a couple of factors that made me think the green bracket's the right bracket. So what do I expect? I expect at least 8 to 1.
Yeah, I would
About my money. 8, 10 to 1, I would have thought.
Well, if the best at 12, you can't get better than that.
No. But the thing is that that's what you'd expect.
Yes, 8 to 1.
8 to 1. You know what I got?
No.
2 to 1.
Oh, no, that's not good enough.
Well, exactly. That's the point. You can't get 2 to 1 about the 4 outsiders in a race and get 18 to 10 about the 4 favourites. So one race, the favourite won, and paid 18 to 10. Paid R2.80 for a rand.
So there's no lure to go for the outsiders.
Well, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That bet is doomed to fail if you bet like that.
You've got
because
to big
even
odds.
if you're seeding the pool, you've got to seed the pool to get it going. You've got to give the guys a chance that if they're going to back the middle bracket, they're going to get 4 or 5 to 1. They back the early bracket, they're going to get even money. That's the way I would think.
Yes.
And you back the big bracket, you're going to get
Well,
8 to 1.
James, it depends on the betting. If you've got an 8 to 10 shot, 2 5 to 2s, you can't expect to get more than 8 to 10. Because you're getting...
Well, let me tell you, the 3 favourites won on the card, okay, and none of them paid worse than 16 to 10.
That's excellent. Now, that's a good bet. Now, I don't ask you a question, Jim, it's simply worked up by who backs what. Correct, like a tote.
Well, it must be a tote pool. That's what I'd like to know. But it must be a pool that you bet into the pool, and you get divided up amongst the pool. But it can't prosper unless you're getting decent odds for backing the big price horses. You can't get 28 to 10 or 2 to 1 about the favourites in the race, the outsiders in the race.
Yeah,
the
James,
4 outsiders.
let me put it to you this way: if you liked a horse at 15 to 10, and you think I'm going to lump on this, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this bet, this roulette bet, because I'm getting 3 other horses with it, so I shouldn't get more than 15 to 10. Exactly,
you should be getting even money about the what's the name, and they all paid even better than even money the Reds. Okay,
that's incredible.
So you should be getting even money at best about the Reds. You should be getting 3 to 1 about the others, or 4 to 1.
Why don't you look into it? It's a good idea.
Well, I just thought it was interesting. Racing roulette. They're trying to propose that we play this game. This is what happened. Let's take a little look at Magic Millions advert. We've got horses for sale over the next couple of months. Let's go and see.
Leonardo's flying. Leonardo to Hedgie takes the lead. Great effort. Mystic Journey going well. Mystic Journey by over 2. Mystic Journey does it easily. Fedora in front. Unlucky last year. She's the hero tonight, Fedora.
Boom Sarah Bondi out back. Barbie, they hit the line. Boom Sarah.
There you go. There's the sales dates. Make sure you keep involved. I know Jim is going out. I'm going out. Always go out there and try and buy a decent horse. Jim, talking about Australia, Jeff Lloyd.
Yeah.
You know, he's won the Queensland Championship, the Premiership, whatever they call it, the last 3 years or whatever. He's now notched up his 50th winner, this one. So it's the last 4 years he's done that. But what was interesting, they got the stat, he's had 579 winners since he had that minor stroke in 2015.
Yeah, they woke him up.
They woke him up.
Got his eyes straight, got him looking straight.
He's such a good
straight,
rider.
And became a good family man since then.
Oh, yeah, but he's always been a good family man. But James, I think that's an incredible feat.
Yeah.
Jeff
like
Lloyd.
him to buy us a bottle of wine when we get to Australia, because we can't afford it, us poor South Africans. We look forward to seeing him when we get there. Blue Point, Poetic Charm, both won at Maidan. Okay.
Yes.
And
Poetic Charm's very good.
They won the three big races on the night on Thursday. This week, we've got some interesting runners. We've got Marinesco stepping out.
Is it this Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday Maranesco stepping out. And I think that horse Paul Peter had is stepping out as well.
Oh, the one that Bonji fell off.
Yeah.
The cell from Seattle,
Yeah.
the member in Seattle,
Yeah,
sorry.
member in Seattle, yeah.
Yeah.
He might be stepping out as well. That's sort of around the corner story that we get, and Hermoso Mundo is doing well.
When is Super Saturday?
Super Saturday's on the 8th of
March.
Yeah, 8th of March, yeah.
I know a lot of guys are going
And there are a
out
lot
there.
of guys going out
A lot
there.
of guys
Phil's
are going
organising
out
a
there.
trip.
Yeah, the
you want to
trip.
get going, you've got to get your visa. You've
Yeah.
got to get moving. So the fascinating racing was great to watch. Two things quickly. We're talking about equine flu. Simon Crisford is still on lockdown.
Okay.
He's not allowed to train, and same with McCain, Donald McCain.
Oh, so they isolated them,
Yeah,
let the rest
most
go
of
on.
the rest are up and going. They say that they haven't found any more positives, which is great news, and it shows you how good the vaccines are, because when you didn't have vaccines, which was our case when we were in the 90s when we got this, sure, it spread like wildfire. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. You know.
Oh, good.
Okay? The last point I want to tell you is Arcana, which is a big French sales company,
Yes.
have joined up with Harris Abelengo and Vacation, which are the two biggest studs. Well, there's
Argentina.
There's a couple of other really big studs, but those are two of the biggest studs.
Harris de Belenga, they've been going for years.
That's the Mentetegi boys, you know. Their father was the greatest.
When were you last out there? You used to go out there and play polo when you were
been there for about 15 years.
Haven't I?
Yeah. But it's, I'm looking forward to going again, and now I'll be getting an opportunity to go there again. Abelengo, the Mentetegis, they bred Candy Ride, who's a champion sire in America. Empress Club, you know, he's a champion. Emerald Beauty was a champion here.
Yeah.
So they've joined up with these two farms to run their stud farm sale of yearlings, 91 yearlings, on the 21st of March at San Isidro Racecourse. So, you know, there might be someone that'd like to go there. We can put you in touch with some very good bloodstock agents there.
Yeah.
You know, Ignacio Pavlovsky's the guy that...
Yeah, well, my mate keeps going in and out, you know.
Well worth having a look at.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try and get some catalogues. And remember, we will be back with Sir Mark Prescott and part 2 of Heath House. Well, as promised, very, very good reports from last week. Everyone loved seeing Mark Prescott, and that was just a sort of salvo over the bars, because you get to learn a little bit about the man and the way he runs his operation and what he does and how he works and how he lives his life. Most interesting guy. I hope you enjoy part 2 of Sir Mark Prescott.
Sir Mark Prescott has been at the helm of Heath House Stables in Newmarket since taking over from Jack Waugh in 1969. In part 2 of our visit to the yard, we reflect on his choice of stable jockeys and some star performers that we've seen and enjoyed over the years. There's a great saying that's been put down to you, which I'm hoping is true, to defy all the myths again. I think you should... I've looked at many women, but only one jockey.
Yes.
George Duffield. Is that a line that you came out with?
Yes, I think it was true. It was true. And George rode for me for 31 years, and then he retired. And then Seb was understudy, and he rode for us, I think, in total 13 seasons, 7 seasons as first jockey. And Luke Morris is in his second or his third season, I think, now. So I have only had 3 jockeys in 45 years, I think.
Oh, and what was it so much about yourself and George Duffield that cemented that relationship for so long?
I suppose, of course, Duffield started here with Mr. War,
right,
with Jack War, so we'd started in the same pretty hard school. Mr. War was unforgiving, you know, he was a tough man, and so I suppose we'd started together, and George then went off and rode one good season for Mr. Oxley and then had a disaster, and he had a glimpse of the abyss. He saw what can happen to your career. And when I gave him a spare ride one day at Warwick and it won, I think he never again wanted to be in the wilderness. He'd had a glimpse and he didn't want to be there. Of course, he was a ferocious worker and enormously fit. When he moved from Newmarket to Yorkshire, he came in every Tuesday, every Friday, bright, clean, polished, shaved, smacking his whip on his boots. What do I ride? Absolutely as if, and he'd probably been at Redcar night meeting.
Right.
But he was made of wire and whipcord. He never had to waste. And he could convince himself that a horse with no chance, by the time he got down the start, he thought it could win. And that imparts itself, you know.
And the relationship was excellent for so long. I mean, many marriages don't last that long. So to have a working relationship with a jockey that could make a mistake, could not quite carry out the orders that were required, that's quite a big relationship.
And George, of course, although I might have thought he made a mistake once or twice, he never did.
Oh, right, okay.
Never, ever.
Well, that's fine.
He will go to his grave thinking he never rode a bad race. It was always that kid that got in the way or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's why he enabled him to go on riding for so long, that supreme confidence and fitness, you know. And then Seb, of course, took over and entirely by his own hard work and pulled himself up by his bootlaces to become champion jockey. And now we've got Luke Morris, who's young and fit and determined and can do a lightweight, and you know, he looks like making an excellent jockey all round.
Yeah. Did that give you a lot of pleasure when Seb Sanders was champion?
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely great. And one of the best days racing of my life was, I didn't have a run, it was that afternoon was when he became joint champion with Jamie Spencer at Doncaster. And one thing was certain to win, and it veered off the course, and Seb won it, and then Jamie had a steering job, and it was exciting, you know. And of course all Jamie's trainers were supporting him and trying to get him there, and we were doing our best for Seb. It was really the most exciting last day of the season there's ever been, I would say.
And quite fitting that they shared it.
Marvellous. And I remember I think it was the Racing Post, one of the papers said this must never be allowed to happen again. They were both exhausted. I mean, what are you talking about? It was best and most exciting days, end of season we've had for years. You know?
Some of the horses that you've enjoyed here over the years, we've seen statues of them. And Albarada would be one of the first that springs to mind for Kirsten Rousing.
Yes, homebred, marvellous family that she's developed. She won the Champion Stakes twice. Only Triptych has done that as a filly. And I think the second win was tremendous because she'd been wrong all year and we hadn't run her for a year. And when she won it, I think the relief as well as the excitement made it a great day. And then there was a half-full sister called Albanova, and nobody but Miss Rousing would have persevered till she was 5. And when she was 5, she won 3 Group 1s. Winner trained Miss Rousing, really, because how many people would go on into a 4th season with a mare?
But mares like that and fillies like that early on in their career, they kind of make a trainer, don't they? When you're associated with a horse that keeps coming back and winning more and more, even when they're not supposed to.
Yes, and then we had Hooray for Cheveley Park. She became highest rated 2-year-old filly in the world. So, you know, we were lucky to have her, and she was, only 4 years ago or something. Pivotal champion sprinter. Marvellous sire. I don't suppose I ever thought he was going to be as successful at stud. You know, in 50-horse stable, you're lucky if one of those comes along every 8 or 10 years, really. You know?
Yeah. And you had Confidential Lady that won a few big races.
She did. She won the French Oaks was second to Pam Sly of all people. A great friend of mine, Pam Sly, in the 2000 Guineas.
Yeah.
She was wonderfully tough filly, always looked tremendously well. She was very easy to train. And probably the most talented we haven't mentioned was last second. Won the Nassau for Prince Faisal Salman. And she was very frail, fragile. She needed all your care and attention. And Confidential Lady would whack away and gallop it whenever you wanted. And so they're all different, like you and me.
I remember being in Paris one year for the Arc, and on the Saturday, I think it was Pasternak.
Yeah.
When was massive favourite, and everyone was tipping him up, and he went and won the big race for you on the Saturday before the Cambridgeshire. That was another terrific performance.
And we had the second in the race, Rudimental.
Right.
And Graham Rock sort of headed the owners who owned Pasternak. And they'd had this enormous bet that as a 4-year-old he'd win the Magnet and the Cambridgeshire. And so he was only ever going to run in those two races.
Right.
So when he won the Magnet, of course, all the money poured onto the Cambridgeshire. So he was favourite for the Cambridgeshire, I think, probably before the weights even came out.
He was, yeah.
And just before the Cambridgeshire, we had the big gallop, and Pasternak and Rudimental with a good old lead horse we had called Farmost. And he was well up to winning a listed race, and Pasternak went the best of it. Rudimental was just creeping in behind and was only beaten about a length. So I said to the boys around Pasternak, I'm going to have to run Rudimental, Cheveley Parker. It's just as important to them. They said, I said, well, we've got to run him. Anyway, in the race, it became apparent the sort of diamond formation, wonderful sunny autumn day, and Pasternak and George Duffield just took it up a little bit soon, and Johnny Lowe rode Rudimental, and he was bright and clever jockey, and he didn't want to help Pasternak by challenging close to him, so he challenged on the stands rail all on his own. And it was apparent that they were going to be first and second, but the order was unknown, you see. And Graham Rock, who famous journalist, as you know, Graham, instead of shouting and screaming or anything, he just tapped me on the shoulder and he said, I do hope you're not going to this up, old man.
During the race?
Yeah, with about 100 yards to go. But Pasternak hung on to one. So we've had some great days. If you're a trainer, you get a few great days, you get a lot of ordinary days. But
that's what it's all about, isn't it? Those great days and the memories. And
and stimulating. I always say to young trainers, I don't know whether you'll be a success training, I don't know if you'll enjoy it, but you will be stimulated every day. Now, a lot of the stimuli will be unpleasant, but you will be stimulated.
Now, you say that, and when we were talking this morning, before we came on camera, we were saying that you've got a bit of a media aura around you, that you are quite a tough individual and you don't take any nonsense. But today, you've been the most soft-talking, elegant trainer that says thank you to everybody. The guys cutting the grass, thank you very much. The girl riding the horse, thank you. Just totally different from
from what you thought.
Yeah, from what everyone expects. So Mark Prescott, you turn up with shin pads on, sort of thing.
I suppose probably you only need to be as tough as you have to be. So as long as everybody's doing it as they should do, I think there wants to be a big difference between when things are going, everybody's doing what they should do, and if people are not doing what they know they should do, then there should be a easily detectable difference.
But there's a lovely aura around the yard, isn't there? It's very quiet, peaceful, relaxed, and your horses really reflect the way that the yard is run.
Well, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I've always believed that the more relaxed they are, the horses, the more they'll eat. The more they'll eat, the more I can gallop them. The more I gallop them, fitter they get, the more they win. So I think they've got to relax. So everything that we do here is designed to try and get the horses to relax so that they can take their work and continue to improve, rather than go off like a firecracker and deteriorate, I think so. And your staff is very important. I think you've got to make them understand their horses and feel for their horses and be careful of their horses. I always say careful's a word people forget what it means. It means full of care. It means not letting him bang himself, not letting him frighten himself, not letting him. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm pleased with what you say, because what I try and do is make them careful of them.
They really just oozes through that you can see that. Yeah. It's been absolutely a terrific scene.
Probably a bit disappointing when you know I like bullfighting and coursing, and to find a string where nobody's allowed to carry a stick. And
just explain it. No one carries a stick.
No one carries a stick unless they've got a license to ride, and because I firmly believe that the more settled they are, the better. Therefore, you remove temptation for someone to get cross with one. And if the horse did need strong handling, then there's 4 or 5 people there perfectly capable of riding it. And the rest of them just want to make sure they enjoy their exercise.
So when does the quiet, peaceful, tranquil Sir Mark turn into El Toreador and whiz off to España to enjoy the bullfight?
Well, I go about 4 weekends a year if I can. And the BHA displayed a shocking lack of foresight when they moved the July Cup to the weekend, because it now clashes with Pamplona and Surrey, 2 of the most important events in the bullfighting calendar. I despair of the BHA, really. I'm not taking that into account, but I get about 4 weekends a year, and then I have 1 or 2 greyhounds in training now in Ireland, and I'll get 2 or 3 weekends a year seeing them run as well. So.
I've read quotes about what you said about bullfighting and the way that the bull is treated all its life before it gets into the arena, etc. What is the excitement for you in that kind of sport?
Well, I think bullfighting, of course, if you're an animal man, is endlessly interesting. And there's sort of, if the layman goes to a bullfight and knows nothing about it, he has as much chance of enjoying it as the average Spaniard has walking into Lord's cricket ground and saying, I'll have a day's cricket, if he doesn't know what the rules are. So you've got to understand the rules. You've got to understand that it's reported on the arts page and not the sports page. There's no winner, there's no loser, it's how it's done. So it's cultura, it's on the culture page. And you have to understand that the bull's life is immeasurably better for 4.5 years than it would be anywhere in Britain. And if I could be a bull calf in Hereford or a bull calf in Seville, I'd opt for Seville every time at Coconut. And that the bull is never afraid.
Right.
He always thinks he's winning. The audience, of course, the crowd, they know that he cannot. But as far as he's concerned, so, you know, from the point of view of the bull's total welfare, it is enormously better with bullfighting than without it. The same argument, of course, applies to horse racing, where we all know the horse's life is immeasurably better with horse racing than it would be out on the prairies, where if he gets an infected foot, he gets eaten that night.
Yeah.
So the balance with all animal sports is really that, which probably in England we're in danger of losing, that most animals are a working animal and we owe them the best life we can possibly give them. We owe them the greatest care, but they are there to serve a purpose. And the racehorse is to race, and the bull is to go to the corrida, and the cow is to give milk, and once they reach a stage, then that's that. You know? So I think the loss of understanding of the working animal, most people never see a working animal.
No.
And I think that's why people possibly have lost track of how animals think and how they feel.
Some kids don't even know that meat comes from cows, you know, that actually was a live animal.
Yes, that's right. And whereas, you know, my generation, being a country boy, you were brought up on the farm, every animal on that farm, you worked tirelessly to give him the best life you could, but you were going to send him to market. In the end, you were going to kill every animal on that place, but you owed him the best life you can give him. And I think that, you know, Ruby Walsh made that very clear after Cheltenham. You know, the horse lives outside. Sure, you do everything for him, but he's not one of the family.
Yeah. You told me some great anecdotes, some great stories from your father and stepfather today. But what's the best advice do you think you've ever been given by somebody?
My father, when I was dying, I was taken back to school to see him, and he'd seen my brother and sister, and he was downstairs, We couldn't get him upstairs. We would now know he was dying of cancer. Those days they didn't know what was wrong with him. He was just fading away. And he said, "Oh, don't look so miserable." He said, "You know what I've said to you, when it's time to put the dog down when it can't jump up onto its bench. It's time to pull the chicken's neck when it can't fly up onto its perch." And he said, "It's the same with your parents when they can't get upstairs." So, and then he said, "I've thought of a million things I'd like to tell you." And he said, "I just don't feel well enough. So I've written down the only 3 things you need to know for a happy life." And I said, "All right." And I can quote it. Number 1, health, good health. 50% luck and 50% the way you lead your life. Number 2, he said, to find a job you really enjoy, and that takes care of half your waking time. And number 3, he said, is to find someone faintly congenial with which to spend the rest of your waking time. That's all you need to know.
That's a beautiful way out of it. And finally, what's the best piece of advice you've ever given somebody?
Probably the same. Probably the same. I think, again, I borrowed this off my stepfather, was whenever somebody got very high and mighty and holier than thou, was pontificating. My stepfather, who'd been a lawyer, he was part of the Nuremberg trials, and had played a significant part in the Shawcross handling of that. And stepfather used to say, "The moral high ground, Mark, has seldom been occupied by anyone with any qualification to be there whatsoever." So I think whenever you hear someone taking a rather high moral standpoint, I can hear this little voice in the back.
Great stories, great anecdotes. You've been a wonderful host, and thank you very much for spending some time with you today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed having you. Thank you.